All right, welcome back to the Playing Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Chelsea Kay. And here in studio today, we have two folks who, I don't know if you've known each other a long time, would you say? Or.
It's about an hour.
Yeah. It looks from the clock, it looks like about an hour.
Yeah, so long time. You go way back. We have two fantastic guests today. I'm so excited from different backgrounds, but both really incredible artists. We have Rudy Valdez here today, and we have Tyler Clark. Welcome both to the podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we're going to do some introductions here, but feel free to pause, or if you want to elaborate on anything I've shared or say, no, we don't need to highlight that. That's fine too. But we'll start with you, Rudy. So you are a 2-time Emmy Award winning filmmaker, and I would say you're bi-coastal at this point, right? And even really tri-coastal if you think about the Michigan coast.
Yeah. The fresh coast.
The fresh coast, the saltless, sea saltless? Coast?
Saltless.
There it is. So it doesn't roll off the tongue well. Sharkless. Now that rolls off the tongue better. You have a lot of credits here. I mean, we could probably have a documentary just on the credits that you have of things you've done, but we'll highlight a few here. So you have a 6-part docuseries called Choir on Disney Plus. That's focused in Detroit, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So we'll have plenty of things that we all need to watch at the end of this.
It's about the Detroit Youth Choir, and they're going to Carnegie Hall.
Yes.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, John. Thank you. You're the one person who watched it.
Oh, I don't believe that at all.
You and my
Very
mom.
compelling.
You and my mom.
Everyone will watch it now. You also have been nominated for a variety of awards, but you worked on a documentary called Carlos about Carlos Santana, right? Yeah. How did that, just real quick, how did that come to fruition?
You know, I just finished my first film, The Sentence, and was working on a series for Netflix, and kind of by chance, I was working with Imagine Entertainment, Ron Howard's company, and they really liked what I was doing with this other series I was working on with them. And I expressed some interest in doing a music documentary, and they had just kind of signed Carlos on to do a music doc with them. And it was a lot of luck and a lot of being in the right place at the right time. And, you know, they flew me out to Vegas to meet Carlos, and we hit it off. And it was sort of went on from there. He was like, this is the guy I want to make this film.
Nice.
And so I was lucky enough to direct and produce and shoot that film.
Wow. Incredible. Right place at the right time. I feel like that's a lot of artistic things in general,
Definitely.
right? Creative things. Like you are in the right theater at the right time. You're meeting the right people at the right time. You're reading the right music at the right time. And the stars align and it happens. Yeah.
I hate to always say, people get on me for saying I was very lucky, because I feel like, you know, they're always like, but you work so hard to, and I think that by saying lucky, you know, I don't discredit the hard work that went into it, but I also feel like by just saying, oh, it was a lot of hard work, it means that there was no luck in there. And I always want to give equal billing to both, because I think it takes a little bit of both of those things.
Yeah, that's fair. I think anyone who's in creative arts in general also probably believes in some type of juju, good luck, etc. So can definitely empathize with that. You also have a variety of other award-winning documentaries. Translators was one that was official selection at the Tribeca Film Festival and won an award there. The Sentence, which you already mentioned, that was your breakthrough project as well, right? You've done a bunch of shorts. You've worked with a variety of different entities for other filmmaking areas. And 2019 was when you won the Primetime Emmy Award for Exceptional Merit in Documentary Filmmaking. And I love that award title. It's just robust, and I just think it's great. Sundance, Critics' Choice, all these good stuff. But some of the stuff you're more into these days, it sounds like heading up Bluff Road Films, your production company. And while you probably started in cinematography, you're more into the directing realm these days. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, my way into the film industry certainly came through the production side. I was a sound mixer, I was a producer, I was an editor, I was a cinematographer, kind of all self-taught over the course of a decade, because I wasn't a filmmaker when I started The Sentence. I kind of left my other professions behind and started making that. And I knew that in order to make that anything, if it was ever going to be anything, I needed to learn all of the facets of filmmaking. And so I worked on everybody else's film that would allow me to, in as many different roles as I could, because I needed to practice and perfect my craft as much as I could. And so I made The Sentence kind of in secret for about 9.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was I was shooting films for everybody else, but once The Sentence came out, I focused on directing after that, but I still shoot all my own films. So I'm still a cinematographer in that sense, that I'm always the one holding the camera, but the way that the camera shows my POV within the style of filmmaking that I do is very important. So it all sort of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Nice. And we should mention for folks who are probably wondering why we have a filmmaker in is that you're originally from Lansing, Michigan,
Yeah.
and you and your family have moved to northern Michigan more formally since maybe the pandemic, would you say?
A little bit
2020-ish?
after the pandemic.
Okay.
We were on the East Coast for 20 years, New York City, Brooklyn. And the idea of working remotely, especially in production and in post-production, was always something that was tough for, I think, networks and producers and stuff to wrap their head around. But we were kind of forced into that style of post-production. And I travel so much for production anyways. But the pandemic really allowed us to embrace this idea of editors kind of having a little bit more autonomy and not having to come into a edit suite every single day. And I was already doing that prior to the pandemic with a lot of my editors, but it allowed me to have a bit more freedom in where I could be and call home. And I really, I have 2 young daughters, and I just wanted them to have I wanted to extend childhood as much as possible and allow them to sort of be in nature and around water and all these things. And so we were coming up here quite a bit during the pandemic, and it just sort of solidified that we could live this other life. And I could still be in New York and LA when I needed to be, and I go there quite often. But when I'm home, I'm home with them, and I'm not drawn into the office all day, every day.
Yeah.
I'm out with them, and it's been amazing.
Wonderful.
Again, very lucky.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have plenty of nature and
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
around Michigan here. So
Yeah.
now moving over to Tyler, you also semi-recently moved to northern Michigan, right? 21 or 22?
22.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have been here before because you are a Interlochen Arts Academy graduate where you focused on percussion, voice, piano, and conducting, as if three people say they're like a triple threat. I think you're officially a quadruple threat in this regard. You have a
And I hear a brilliant dancer, too.
Oh, yeah. We'll do some interpretive dancing
Just
later.
ask my wife, who's a choreographer. I think she might have a different perspective.
I know this is an audible, medium, but he's dancing right now, and it's fantastic.
Da, 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 da. All right.
So there are always movies playing in your head. Is that
Yes,
what it's
yes, there is.
You have a BA in Music History and Literature from Youngstown State University, where you served as the student conductor for most every performing ensemble and a resident music director of the Youngstown Playhouse. This part blows my mind. Conducting more than 100 performances. How do you do that? And how long did that take?
It was such a great learning experience. The artistic director there had actually been on Broadway, worked with Hal Prince,
Oh, wow.
had originated one of the roles in 1776 and toured with Patti LuPone and done all these things. So he brought that background, and I learned so much from him. And he came to Youngstown State University to watch me conduct and music direct Sondheim's A Little Night Music there at the university, asked me to come over and join him at the Playhouse. And that summer, we started out with 1776 and West Side Story, and we're just off to the races, did show after show. They had so many musicals programmed for each season, and I think maybe 3 weekends of performances programmed for each, something that is unfathomable to me these days,
Yeah.
but was such an incredible experience. So that's how I racked up those numbers.
Wow. I mean, I think you're the only person I know that has conducted that many performances. So you have a certain notch on that belt there. That's incredible. How we met and what you've most recently been a part of, you musically directed and conducted A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at Old Town Playhouse, which if you didn't see it, I'm so sorry.
That was a great time.
It was a great time. But you will be back because you're doing the same musical direction and conducting The Drowsy Chaperone. That's the spring of 2026, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. You also have been on stage. We'll have to dive into that. Actually on stage and performing in roles as Joe in Angels in America and Bobby and Company. Lots of Company fans listen to this podcast, so we might have to dive into that. In your, I guess we'd say like waking hours, you do what a lot of us do, which is you work a full-time 9 to 5 in software and tech. Same here. And so we do our creative stuff on the side. And you also speak fluent German.
Yeah, when I was at the academy, I took a year in between junior and senior years and was part of an exchange program and lived in the former East Germany just a couple of years after the wall came down. And
Oh, wow.
it was a really great experience. Had a wonderful host family there and
Wow.
picked up German in the process.
So did you study music while you were in Germany?
I did. I sang in a choir and we sang these beautiful cathedrals. We did the Bach Christmas Oratorio and also, studied piano, and it was a wonderful experience. I just lucked out, and we're talking about luck. I lucked out into attending the Goethe Gymnasium in Demmin in the Northeast in the state of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. And they had this wonderful music program and this wonderful Hans Richter, who was the director there, and he took us around and we sang in these beautiful spaces, and it was really wonderful.
Wow. That's a once in a lifetime experience,
Truly.
truly. Wow, incredible. Have you been back since?
Been back a few times
Okay.
and have another trip planned in a couple of years.
Exciting. I'll have to get all your Germany recommendations.
Happy to share.
Yes. So both of you have, I think, very different, what some people call like an inception story or aha moments, or how you got into your version, your iteration of performing arts. And so I'd love for whoever would like to start, but I would love to hear about how that came about for you and how that's helped maybe you get to where you are today, with whether that's the direction you went or anything else you want to share on that. But I think you both have unique stories of how you got into that, or maybe what that looks like for you in the beginning.
After you.
Very, very kind. First of all, very humbled to be next to a man of your impressive credentials. So,
Likewise.
glad
I mean,
to meet you.
100, that's unbelievable. Like, I'm just trying to do the math of, so you're 200 years old?
More or less.
Okay. That makes a lot more. It's less impressive now, but it makes a lot of sense. No, that's unbelievable. I was over here like saying, how do you do 100?
Did your arms hurt? Because my arms hurt thinking about that.
Stay in the same place for long enough, you rack up some numbers.
That's truly impressive, truly.
Do you have more than one conducting wand?
I do have several. In fact, I had kind of not done it for a while, and so I had literally put it on the shelf. Like, I had this framed case with like 5 batons artfully organized that I hang on my wall that people can see behind me when I'm on Zoom calls during the day. But I also have several others that are just hanging around because it's just fun to collect.
Nice.
Tools of the trade.
Yeah. So back to your how it all began
Origin story. I started playing percussion in the 6th grade. You had the option to either do choir, orchestra, or band, and orchestra was just strings. And I seemed to fit well into percussion, could keep rhythm. So then after a few years, all the other kids were doing camp and I wanted to do it too. So I came up to Interlochen and played, and I applied late, kind of figured out what I wanted to do late, and applied in May for a program that started in June. And they said, you can come, but you've asked to be in band and we have to put you in orchestra. We have all 6 slots in the band are filled and we have 2 orchestras with no percussionists. So I ended up playing in both the intermediate concert and symphony orchestras every week, multiple rehearsals, multiple performances, and it was incredible. And that was what blew my mind and really turned me on to classical music. I had already been doing musical theater for a while, and then I kind of did both for a while. But then when I came to the academy for high school, it seemed like I needed to pick something at that time. So I did percussion and then started singing and picked up piano. And I just had always, when you're a percussionist in an orchestra, you're counting measures rest more than you're playing. So you're just sitting there waiting for your bum, bum, and then you wait again. So I'm just watching the conductors rehearse the orchestras, 2 conductors, 2 orchestras, and I'm just trying to absorb all this. And while I'm watching them figure out how to fix a problem in the winds or how to conduct this particular passage that you could interpret fast or slow or with more emotion or a little more restrained. And I'm watching all these different variations and thinking to myself, how would I do it? And is that effective? And so that kind of got me interested in it. There's also a little bit of cult of personality in the conducting profession. Like, you think of these big personalities like Arturo Toscanini going way back, and then Leonard Bernstein and Herbert von Karajan over in Germany. And they're just these larger than life personalities. And you see them up there making this sound come out of the ensemble. And it's pretty intoxicating, right? So came back from Germany and asked the director if I could conduct, and I conducted a performance along with another student conductor, and then was recruited to go to Youngstown State. And then, like you said in my bio, did all of the student conducting for the ensembles. And I just really was fully intending to be the next Herbert von Karajan music director of the Berlin Philharmonic. And then I graduated from school and I met somebody and we were thinking about a family, and I was like, I think maybe I'll just go into business. My dad was working for a software company, a technology company. And so it just kind of a lot of different factors, but the origin story, sorry, I got sidetracked.
It's all right.
Was really just about watching it happen, thinking about what I would do differently. And then I was fortunate to get the opportunity to really try that. And it was great.
Yeah.
Great time. Really loved it.
Wow. Yeah. I like how you use the word intoxicating for conducting. I can imagine as a person who's also just into rhythms and that energy, I know when I watch whether it's a symphony orchestra or something like that, I do enjoy watching, especially having come from Los Angeles where we had Gustavo Dudamel, just this incredible energy, and you feel like you're riding waves on an ocean with this, but you're sitting in your seat and it becomes rhythmic and all these different things and these feels.
You can see the sound personified
Yes.
in those kind of conductors. Certainly Dudamel is one of those dynamos who just every pore of his body, every synapse just is electric as he's there on the podium making it happen.
I mean, I honestly feel like energy shoots out his toes and his hair. Like, it's just everywhere.
Definitely his hair.
Definitely. I mean, that's part of it, right? So
One of my favorite parts is when something is coming up, and you're conducting within the moment. But I love when you can kind of see something coming in the body of the conduct. Like, it's like, oh, there's something, like there's a build coming or something. I love watching that part of the performance. It's really fascinating. I love watching a conductor so much.
yeah, it's a very niche and I think technical and like lots of education and understanding about probably the entire landscape of the story that you're telling, right? With the music, to be able to orchestrate and put this all together and encourage it and ebb and flow and really put everything together. And I think people don't think about that as performance art, but I mean, everyone that we have on this podcast plays some role in performance art. Composers are composing the music that we put on to tell stories. They're telling stories with music. Conductors are helping put that story together and share it in all these different ways. And the players of the instruments are playing the story. You know, there's so many incredible pieces that can open your eyes up to what performance art really is holistically. But I think intoxicating is just such a perfect word for that. I think there's a concert I'll see in October, the Benzie Area Symphony Orchestra, and one of their conductors is from Interlochen, and very energetic, lots of great stuff. So I'll be on the lookout now for feeling even more intoxicated with conducting. That's awesome. Rudy, Lansing, did things start for you in Lansing? Is that your inception story here, your origin story?
Yeah, I think I weirdly have kind of two stories that really changed the path of my life. And, I don't generally tell the first one a ton because I don't want to feel like, feel sorry for me. But I'll tell it in a way that maybe doesn't feel that way. But growing up, I think it started in elementary school and certainly became much more apparent in middle school and then going into high school. I didn't do well in school at all. And I certainly tried, but it didn't always go very well for me. And I could never figure out what it was. I just kept hearing and having the same feeling of like, well, I'm just dumb. I don't think I'm very smart. And that was what I felt like was being perpetuated towards me, and that I was on a path that seemed to be laid out for me already. And my junior year of high school, I had made sort of a group of friends that all felt very upward bound, and they were doing all of these things that I was trying to keep up with and trying to take some of the same classes. And, I wanted to be successful. I didn't know what that meant, but I noticed a lot of them started taking these pre-SAT, ACT courses, like practice tests. And so I made an appointment with my counselor. And I went in and I said, should I be taking these ACT practice tests? And he literally laughed. He goes, no.
Oh, no.
No, you don't have to worry about those.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, what does that mean? He was like, well, it's just not for everyone. And he goes, what do you want to do? I was like, I got to figure something out. Like, I need to graduate. I was like, I know I'm not getting good grades, but what can I do? And so he was looking at my transcripts and he goes, look, you're failing. You don't have enough English credits right now. You're going to have to go to summer school and you're going to have to do this and this and this. And he said, the only way you can make up your English credits at this point is you have to take this theater class, you have to take this English class, this other English class, and then you have to take summer school. And I was like, okay, but I don't want to take the theater class. Like, is there anything else I can do? He was like, it's the only thing that will get you that credit. He said, don't worry, show up, sit in the back of the class, and don't get in any trouble. And I was like, I just have to sit there? He was like, just sit there. And so I showed up enough. And at the end of the semester, it was the last day of the semester, we were doing improv things on the stage. And I'd sat there the whole time. I'd never done anything. And the teacher said, Rudy, you haven't performed all semester. And I said, I was told I didn't have to. And she goes, no. This class, you have to perform at least once or you don't pass. And so she said, get up here. They're doing these like improvs on the stage. And I'm in the wing next to her. And she was like, we have about 2 more scenes. And she's like, I'm not kidding. I will fail you. You have to do this. And another scene goes and like ends. And it was the last one. And she goes, just walk out there, do something and walk off. That's all you have to do. And I'm literally watching, like, am I going to graduate or not? And I walk out there in this last scene and people start laughing and they start, like, not at me, but with me. And something happened. And she goes, stop, stop, stop. What the hell was that? And I go, I have no idea. And it clicked in my head. And I went from this kid who was told, you know, you're going to take this sort of easier English class, you're going to take this other path, you're going to do summer school, to in the fall of my senior year, I got the lead in our Shakespeare show. I got the lead in our spring musical. I ended up going to college for theater. I ended up, because I didn't take that SAT or ACT, I went to a community college, got into their studio program, eventually transferred to Michigan State for theater, going from somebody who was told, you're not going to graduate high school, college isn't for you, to understanding that my brain just worked a little bit different. And I needed to figure out what that was for myself. And so, you know, at the core of this story, art kind of saved me. And it made me realize that I wasn't dumb. I wasn't worthless. I had something in me. It just wasn't me regurgitating things that were being told to me and putting them back on. I couldn't do that. But if you put me on the spot and you told me I needed to do something and I needed to perform and I needed to do these things, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it changed something in my brain, but it certainly changed the way I felt about myself. And it's carried me all the way through. And so I actually went to Michigan State for theater, and with a semester left, spoke to one of my professors because I was bursting. I had done like 14 shows in a row. Like, I was nonstop performing. And I said, I gotta get out of here. I have to go. There's something, like, I love where I'm from. I love my hometown, but I needed to do something because I felt like if I didn't leave, I was never going to. And he said, look, you're almost done. Finish it out, get your degree, and then go to LA, go to New York, figure it out. And then he said, that's what I have to tell you as an educator. He said, but what I want to tell you is get the hell out of here. And so I moved to New York as an actor and a playwright. I got the lead in my first audition out there for this play with the New York Fringe Festival. I was producing comedy. I was writing comedy. I was doing all these things. I wrote a show that ended up traveling the country for about 3 years that I starred in. And it was sort of one of the things that I was really passionate about. I had just signed with a big agency or a management company as an actor. And then something happened in my family. My sister was found guilty of conspiracy charges. And it kind of rocked my world a little bit. And I went to the sentencing, and she was given 15 years. And I didn't know what any of it meant. And I was trying to figure out what I could do to help her and to fix this. And while I'm doing all of this stuff on the side, comedy, theater, writing, I would go back whenever I could afford to go and film her kids, not for anything other than I needed to capture moments so that when she got out, she could watch them grow up. And I went back because her older daughter had a dance recital, and I'm filming her get ready because I knew it was something my sister would want to see, and she's getting her little makeup on and stuff. And completely organically, my sister calls. And I didn't know whether I should continue filming or if I should turn the camera off, but I kept filming and I kept holding the shot. And my sister says something to my niece. She says, do you know what mommy's going to do when you go to dance? I'm going to lay down in my bed. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to think about you. And in that moment, I quit everything else. I was teaching kindergarten at the time. I was coaching basketball. I was doing theater. I was doing improv. I was doing all these other things. And I went back that weekend and I told the principal, I won't be back next year. I told my acting manager, I don't want to audition anymore. I stopped performing. I stopped doing comedy. I stopped doing everything. And I started as an unpaid intern because I needed to figure out how to tell this story. And so chance and luck and things sometimes that felt beyond me were like, you have to figure out how to do this. And
You hadn't done film projects prior to that?
I'd never worked on a
You
film
just
project.
knew that you had to tell the story and figure out whatever
I had to.
skills you needed. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And to this day, I don't know why I thought I could do it, but
Just knew you had to.
I knew I had to, and I had to figure it out. And I knew that I couldn't figure it out if I was doing it on the side or part-time. While I was still trying to perform and still trying to act, I knew that I couldn't do those two things. And so this thing, acting and comedy and all of that I was so passionate about and drove me and changed my life truly, completely went away. I've never looked back and said, oh, I wish I'd
Hmm.
continued to act, or I wish I'd continued to do that. It went away in an instant, and I cannot explain it. But that passion all went to, let me figure out how to tell this story.
That's incredible. I mean, I'm not crying, but I want to cry. Goosebumps after that story. That's incredible. And I do feel like there are a lot of creatives out there who do not end up doing any type of higher education because of a similar feeling or sentiment of
Mhm.
like, well, the sciences and math are not my thing, but I excel in this one area, but that's not really going to get me anywhere. Or I can't, then I
Yeah.
can't afford school because it's really expensive. And why get a theater degree when I could just go to New York? Or
Mhm.
there's all these like balancing pieces, and there's so many different things that folks are told.
Yeah, and I think it's different for everyone too. I
Hmm.
think that there are certainly a lot of filmmakers that I love and respect that went to film school and went that route and are amazing filmmakers. And there are others who, like me, like one of my favorite editors was like, I want to be this and this is what I want to be. So she didn't go to college. She was like, I'm going to focus on learning how to edit and I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to be in the middle of it. And she's one of the best editors out there right now.
Yeah.
And, I think everyone has to kind of listen to that, what works for them, and I think that's the big thing with, I get a ton of people coming to me and saying like, what's the route? What do I do? And I'm like, I can't tell you what it is, but you have to just keep moving forward. Like a tiny step forward today is, you're farther than you were yesterday, and just keep making those tiny steps and put in the time and put in the hard work, and luck will happen when it's supposed to.
Yeah. I'm curious if, based on kind of your experience, your arc in this story, are there things you've learned about kind of making that switch that, like, things I guess you'd say that like you might do differently, or if somebody was in a similar thought of like, well, I do really like performing, but I'm also interested in this. Like, I agree with the sentiment that some folks say, oh, I'm a jack of all trades, but
Mhm.
to me that means you're not really good at the one thing,
Mhm.
right? Per se.
Yeah, yeah. I
Or
mean,
or it just takes you a minute maybe to find that one thing that you excel just a little bit more at.
yeah, and I think it's about, a lot of people talked about, well, how can you just abandon, especially the people who knew me when I was acting and writing and doing comedy, they knew how passionate I was about that, what my dreams were, what I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And they were like, how can you walk away from that, all that hard work you put in, and this thing that felt so much like you? And I said, well, as I've continued in my career, and I think very early on I recognized it, all of these tools I was sharpening, writing and performing and doing improv and listening, they all translate to what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
especially the listening.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I excel at when I'm out in the field shooting, making verite documentary, is that I'm not out there, you don't go into an improv scene saying, I'm going to come in here and dictate what this is. You come
Mhm.
into that improv scene and you say, what is there and how do I feed off of it? How do I listen? How do I contribute when I need to, but step back and let the story happen for yourself? And that
Mm.
is documentary filmmaking. That is
Interesting.
verite documentary filmmaking. You're coming in not with your biases and your ideas of like what you are supposed to be. It's letting you be who you're going to be
Yeah.
and saying yes and sharing that.
Yeah. On our first podcast, Wes Curry, the artistic director of Autumn Playhouse, said one of the pieces of advice he would give is that no is a full sentence, but I think yes is also a full sentence. And sometimes we're so afraid of saying that yes to ourselves that we inadvertently just create kind of a waterfall of no's.
Mhm.
And we try to justify that for a bunch of different reasons, right? I'm curious, Tyler, like when you approach a new piece for conducting, the way that Rudy's kind of described entering and listening and all of those pieces, is that similar for you when you approach like a new piece of music and a new set of musicians? Like, how do you enter that space or prepare even, to enter that space and guide the story along with the music and the musicians?
You're looking at it, I think, in a couple of respects. I mean, not unlike learning a play, if you're directing that, you're looking at all the lines to figure out what's happening in between the words and how to shape the movement that you see. But you're also stepping back to look at the whole picture and how does everything come together? How do you pace it, finish? And that's very similar, maybe a different language, as it were, with the musical notes. You're looking at each of the lines. If I'm going to conduct the flautist in this piece, do I know their whole part? And then do I know how it fits together with everything else? So you're wanting, like, the goal, sometimes there's not enough time,
Mm.
but the goal is to like know all of the notes, like know everything that's happening so that as you're going through, you're hearing, you're listening, you're making sure you're kind of validating, verifying that everything is as it should be. But then at that next level, then once you've gotten over just getting it correct, like making sure that A flat is not A natural,
Yeah.
then like what is your vision for how you see everything being paced and shaped, dynamics and all that kind of thing? So in preparing, it's also about project management. Like, how are you going to conduct rehearsals?
Yeah.
And how are you going to make sure that when the musicians leave each rehearsal, they're excited to come back and do it again? So
Yeah.
you're picking out a hard part that's challenging, making sure you've got enough time to dig into that and fix that, but then also adding on to it at the end, something that they can just enjoy playing so that they leave with that good feeling. And so it's all, like you said, it's
Yeah.
niche. There's so many
Yeah.
different skills, and it's part project manager, it's part, just rehearsal technician. And then there's the leadership where you're just trying to inspire people to all have a shared vision of this piece together.
I love that, how you describe it, because when we think about directing, right, the director has a vision. So if you just think like a musical director, movie director, there is a vision for what other art you're looking at, whether it's music written or words written, and so you're interpreting that and you are figuring out the story you want to tell, the arcs, the colors, the feelings, the energy, all of that. I think so often we just get focused on like, oh, director Steven Spielberg, and don't get me wrong, does great work, but the musical director of it, I mean, some of my favorite movies, TV shows, documentaries, etc., I remember the music and how the music was really just swells you into that story, and the marriage of directing one aspect of it and directing the other. And when those come together, just the exquisite nature of that holistically coming together, and the feeling you get when you are at intermission even, or when you're done with it and you want to talk about it and you want to talk about how great the music was. And did you see the director and his hair was flapping around? It was amazing. So I love to see that. I'm curious for both of you if you have any favorite folks you've worked with throughout the industry that have maybe even been mentors to you in the past through directing, or your upcoming, or conducting, or at Interlochen, or even just any other shows you've been a part of.
Yeah, before that, I wanted to ask you a quick question about when you're conducting with a large orchestra and you're able to work with such gifted musicians. Musicians tend to, especially when they're as good as the people you're conducting, have personality in the way they play something, and the way, you can, not to go back to Carlos Santana, but like you can tell when Carlos is playing a guitar. You can tell when it's somebody else, or Jimmy, or whoever. And I'm just curious how you manage that. Is that something that, this is me just being a total novice in conducting, but I'm curious because there must be personalities and ways people play. And is that part of the personality part of it that you have to conduct, of like bringing people in to let them have the way they play heard, but also allowing it to be a part of the larger vision? Or I imagine it must be very difficult.
There definitely are personalities at play, right? And so the first thing I think of, just because it was so recent, was when we were doing the Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at the Playhouse, and had a violinist who just had kind of a unique sensibility, and like I wouldn't have maybe had her play exactly like she played, but once I understood what she needed and kind of how her style and approach to it fit in, I was able to get everyone else kind of to route around that. And she had a number of solos as the first violinist. So that's just one example. I think of when the Detroit Symphony was playing here this summer and did Scheherazade, and there's these incredible oboe solos in the piece. And I was watching the conductor very intently as how he was cueing them. And in this case, it was just an extended oboe riff over just some static strings, I think, that were underneath. And he didn't even conduct. He was just like, pointed at him, said, "It's all you." And so they did their thing and did their solo. And it was very uniquely crafted. You could tell that they had a very specific way that they wanted to do it. And then he brought everyone else in once they were done. So it's that give and take.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to encourage them to bring to it what matches the overall vision that you have.
And like honoring their work there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because obviously they've put a great deal of thought into it themselves. And so how do you meet them?
Yeah.
there?
No, I find that fascinating. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Oh,
totally
you're
forgot your
fine.
question.
I wanted to ask. Really, just wanted to learn a little bit about
Mentors.
along the way. You can name names or not. It's totally fine. But I think a lot of the time we as artists don't think honestly about mentors unless we're in like a, I don't know, almost a professional setting, right? Where they're like, well, here's your mentor and, go have sandwiches together or whatever you're going to do. And it's sort of formalized in a way. But I think we don't think about mentorship also as an arm of education, an arm of experience, and an arm of also sort of that accountability meets inspiration all at once, right? It's many, many things that are faceted. So I'm curious if either of you have experiences with people that you would deem mentors along your experiences.
So I've had two, I think, that were, I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of really wonderful people and people that I respect and people that I'm humbled to be on the same poster with, all of those things. But my first real job in documentary came under a man named Marc Benjamin, who, if I'm being completely honest, was very, very tough on me, very tough. And, one of the things that were always being said at that time were, assistants with him don't last longer than a year and a half. Like he chews them up and spits them out, and he's very tough. And I stayed for nearly 5 years with him.
Wow.
And one of the reasons I stayed was because as tough as he was on me and how angry I was a lot of the times, despite all of that, he was one of the first people in my life that really expected a lot out of me. And I'd never had a relationship like that where somebody was like, you're not going to say you can't do this and just not do it and, let that be that. He's like, you're going to learn this and you better learn this. And in my head, it was like, he's saying that because he thinks I can learn it. And that was pretty monumental for me. I became an editor for him, a camera operator for him, a sound mixer, a producer, a field producer. I did all the things for him, and he demanded perfection. And so that was my kind of crash course film school with him. I had to know every aspect of filmmaking with him, and it had to be perfect. And then when I'd finally felt as though I'd had enough, I moved on, and I had another mentor. Again, complete luck, complete absolute luck. I went in to interview for this job and I didn't know, I thought that they were having me come in for a PA assistant camera position. And at that time, you had your reel on a DVD if you had a reel. And I just happened to throw that in my backpack when I went to the interview. And she was like, so tell me about your work. And we were going through all that. And she said, do you have a reel? And I said, yeah, I do. And so she took it right in front of me and put it right in the computer that was there. And we started watching it. And she looked at me and she said, so do you want to do this? And I was like, do what? She's like, you want to be the DP of this doc? And she hired me to be the DP cinematographer of this documentary. And I went from, I don't want to say nothing, but like from not having that experience to then she was trusting me. And her name's Geeta Ganbahir. And she, if you Google her right now, not only is she one of the most respected, talented, amazing documentary filmmakers living, she is one of my favorite people on this planet. She guided me through that part of my career in such an amazing way and gave me so many amazing opportunities that, again, much like Marc did before, she did expect a lot out of me, but she also believed in me as an artist, I think. It was like the second part of my evolution of like, I could do the technical stuff. I could do the things if you told me to do it. But she was then encouraging me to put my voice into it.
Yeah.
And so those two were so influential. I still work with Geeta to this day, and I still talk with Marc often. But Geeta really helped me find my voice cinematically and visually because she trusted me to go out and do it and demanded a lot from me. And so those two people really shaped me, especially early in my career.
That's incredible. Two different ends of the spectrum, but
And both
needed.
luck, like both complete luck in meeting them. I met Marc Benjamin because I was teaching his son kindergarten.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that's how we met.
Yeah.
And Geeta was a reference that I just cold went into this interview. And she saw something, I guess. And she was like, let's do this.
Incredible. How about you, Tyler?
So many mentors over the years. I loved my time at the Interlochen Arts Academy and had so many great teachers there. When I was in college, I started studying performance and voice and piano, but I liked reading way more than practicing. So I met the professor who led the music history division and we hit it off. He was also the organ professor and also was a longtime music director and organist at the Episcopal Church downtown, just down the street from the university. And we hit it off. He was just a wonderful mentor for me all through my college years. And like you said, he had very high expectations for me. And I still remember painfully the times that I let him down. But I basically just became a part of his family and would go over and we'd watch movies together. In addition to when we were performing together, he brought me over, had me be the conductor at his church in that beautiful, beautiful space. We're able to do all these incredible choral numbers as well as hired orchestra, and we would do Mozart Requiem and all these incredible things. So that was such a great experience. Continues to be a dear friend to this day. Now he's in his 90s, and
Incredible.
but it was a wonderful experience.
Incredible. I love that. I want to ask something we haven't talked about yet on the podcast, which is sort of the flip side of the positive mentor builds you up. And I'm wondering if maybe what your thoughts are on, I don't want to say failure, but we'll just say failure, right? You've tried something in some way. It doesn't have to be an entire project, certainly bombing, but I think as creatives, rejection is a part of this business, whether you want to think of it as a business or not. And so whether it's not getting into a show or not getting the bid to conduct or something, or some other aspect of just that rejection and how you have handled that, would just love to get your thoughts on how you've managed that and how you've used that to maybe take next steps toward to grow, or however you look at that.
I've actually been thinking about failure a lot in the professional context, and being a software engineering manager, having my team. There's so much focus right now on metrics and meeting goals in terms of productivity and all these things. And so I think of failure a lot right now just in terms of learning, because there's so many ways to fail, right? But these are all just learning experiences that you bring with you and maybe fail better the next time. But we're just constantly failing, right? In every performance, you'd love to put out 100% and get everything right, but there's so many failures. And so in the run of a performance, I'm going so fast and always trying to think about the next thing that we're going to play and how to prepare for that and then execute it. And then, something happens that wasn't right. It's really difficult to tuck that away so that you can bring it up and learn from it later. It just kind of is so fleeting. And I don't have a solution for that, but I'm just, when we talk about failure, I think about all the ways that we fail every time we're out there performing. And that struggle to latch on to it enough to bring it with you and learn from it and not let it just fly by.
Yeah. Anything you'd add, Rudy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one piece of solid advice that I try to give to people that I mentor and try to help that are coming up in this industry is to get a very, very comfortable relationship with failure. Because failure is going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot. I fail daily. And to me, it's like, if I'm not failing, especially during the process of filming and when we're in the edit space and we're trying to make something, if I'm not failing, then I'm not stretching myself. I'm getting complacent in this space of, I've done this before. I'm going to regurgitate this previous thing that I've done and give you the same film again. And I'm not okay with that. I need to take big creative swings. Well, that's one of the first things I tell my editors. I'm like, listen, I don't want you to just piece this together. I don't want you to say, you filmed this scene goes here, this scene goes here. Take creative swings. I was like, you want to know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to like them. But I'm going to find what I'm going to understand from this thing that you're going to deem a failure is what you're seeing in this footage. And we're going to start to understand and create a common language. And that comes from failure. Because I didn't shoot this thing perfectly. You're not going to edit it perfectly on your first swing, but we're going to figure out what we feel from this. And we're going to find perfection from that. We're going to find harmony in that. And funny enough, the person who taught me the most about failure was a friend of mine who went to Interlochen, my best friend in the world. His name's Benjamin Walker. We were, early on in living in New York City, we became friends, and he, is a big Broadway star and has done all this stuff. But I remember him going on this audition, and I was so excited for him because he had this big audition and I knew it was coming up. And, we had lunch before it, and then he went to audition, and I was just sort of working in film and trying to figure out how to get jobs and things. And I was like interviewing and trying to get these things. And I remember seeing him like a week later and saying, how did it go? And he's like, how did what go? I'm like, what do you mean? How did what go? That audition. He's like, which one? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And he was like, I didn't get that. But but he wasn't like going to that audition and then sitting back and saying, this is it. This is the one. If I get it, then I'm going to be great. If I don't, then I'm a failure. He just keeps going. He just kept going. And he was like, you can't sit back and wait for that one thing. He was like, you got to keep going. And it changed my mentality in a major way when I was out trying to get jobs. It's like, okay, it's not this one. It's going to be the next one. It's going to be the next one. And it's like, the more you fail, the easier it becomes to fail. And that's not always a bad thing if you continue to push forward and learn from those things. And so get a great relationship with failure because that's going to help you.
Yeah, I had a friend in the theater who was always going on auditions, and they were like, don't ask me about the auditions that I do because most of them are going to fail. I'll let you know if I get one, but if you ask me about all the ones that I don't get, it's just going to be hard for both of us.
Yeah.
It's a resume of failures. Yeah.
I should put a resume of like all the things I didn't get. And we're like, here are the films I didn't
The anti-resume.
Yeah. I thank you both for sharing that. As someone who has done stand-up in Michigan and Los Angeles, one of our sort of core tenets is, you keep getting up. You get up, you get up, you get up. And I think what people find so intimidating about that particular art form is that you're the writer, director, producer, and actor. The whole shebang is on you. And so whether you improve or bomb publicly or at an open mic is entirely up to you for the most part. There are, people will always the audience, bad audience or whatever. It's like, or you just weren't funny. It's just kind of that simple. There are plenty of times when you have that, but getting back up and doing it. I love this phrase of keep showing up because it's quite universal. But for stand-ups, it's fail hard and fail often because that's how you find the gold nuggets, in between the diamonds in the rough. And I think that's across every type of performing art is just to lean into it and not let it doesn't define you. And to also not go into that realm of comparing yourself to somebody else who got it, because you all know as directors, like it's about the story. It's a bigger thing. It's not about you as an individual or you as an individual because you are talented, but you can be talented and not right for this thing, not the right musician, not the right, editor, whatever that is. And that's also the storytelling itself is putting those folks in place. But we're sensitive artists sometimes.
Yeah. Do I cry every time I fail? Maybe.
Have a permanent set of Kleenex. Just
going to my cry room. I'll be back.
It's just in the corner holding your knees, rocking back and
my
forth.
Process. This is my process.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Well, we are coming up on time, so we could be here for hours, let's be honest, including the tap dancing that Tyler will lead us in.
I can't wait to see that.
I forgot my shoes.
Oh, gee golly.
We'll add the noise in later.
We'll do that in post. Let's play a little game of rapid fire. So we'll do this a little differently.
Oh, we haven't started. Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll do this slightly differently than I've done the last few. So it's going to be the same questions for both of you. So what I'll do is I'm just going to ask the first question and I'll point, and it's the first thing you think of.
Okay.
Try not to overthink it. Again, like this is not rocket science, I swear. And I'm not trying to trick you in anything, I promise. So rapid fire, are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
All right. Favorite musician or composer?
Tyler.
Sondheim.
Favorite TV show?
In Living Color.
The Choir.
So good.
That's good. That's good, Tyler. That's good.
Favorite musical instrument?
Drums. Timpani.
Ooh.
Trumpet.
Favorite performance ritual, backstage or otherwise?
Just close your eyes and get energized in the moment.
Okay.
I used to have this really big superstition where I had to take the tiniest peek at the audience. And sometimes that's very difficult because you don't want them to see you. So I used to have to figure out a way to just peek.
Sneak a peek.
Sneak a peek.
All right. And last, favorite thing to do in Northern Michigan outside of the performing arts?
It's just so beautiful. There's a wildlife preserve just around the corner from our house, and we love to go for walks there and love to kayak on our lake. And I mean, there's so many things. It's so beautiful here.
All right. Outdoors. All right.
I absolutely love, and I'm not good at it, but I love skiing with my family.
Winter skiing.
Winter skiing with my family I'm terrible at it, but when we're up there and I see my kids having the time of their life, there's nothing better.
I love it.
Nothing better.
Perfect. And that is a perfect way to end and conclude our latest episode. Thank you both so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Incredible conversation. We learned so much. We'll do the dancing outside. Or maybe that'll be a bonus video or something.
Yeah, we'll definitely add that.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you all for
Go to
listening.
TylerDances.com.
Yes. Thank you all for listening, and we hope to hear from you. See you. I don't know what I'm saying anymore at the next podcast.